It doesn't begin with a speech. There is no press conference, no presidential address, no warning to the world. When the United States finally strikes Iran, it begins in silence. At 1:43 local time, air traffic controllers across the Persian Gulf notice something strange. Civilian radar screens briefly flicker. Commercial flights are rerouted without explanation. GPS signals degrade over wide areas of the region. To the public, it looks like a technical issue. To military analysts, it is the unmistakable signature of a pre-attack electronic warfare operation. The strike has already begun. For years, Washington and Tehran have existed in a state of controlled hostility. Sanctions, cyber attacks, proxy wars, assassinations, all carefully calibrated to avoid direct war. But modern conflicts do not explode overnight. They erode. The trigger is rarely a single event. It is accumulation. A drone strike on U.S. forces in the region, an Iranian missile transfer to a proxy group, new intelligence suggesting nuclear breakout capability. A red line quietly crossed. At some point, the calculation shifts. Deterrence fails not because one side wants war, but because one side believes delay is more dangerous than action. In Washington, the decision is not framed as war. It is framed as prevention. Prevent a nuclear-armed Iran, prevent a regional arms race, prevent an attack that intelligence agencies believe is imminent. The goal is not occupation. The goal is paralysis. The United States does not plan to invade Iran. It plans to break its ability to fight, fast enough that escalation becomes Iran's problem, not America's. This doctrine has a name: shock, dislocation, and dominance. The first phase unfolds long before the first missile is fired. Cyber units embedded in Iranian infrastructure activate dormant access points planted months or years earlier. Power grids feeding military installations destabilize. Communication nodes fail in cascading patterns. Iranian technicians scramble to diagnose the problem. They never realize it is intentional. At the same time, U.S. Space Command initiates non-kinetic actions against Iranian satellites. Not destruction, interference. Enough to degrade surveillance and targeting without creating orbital debris. Iran's situational awareness begins to collapse. Not dramatically, quietly. Then the airspace closes. U.S. and allied naval assets move into pre-positioned zones. Carrier strike groups in the Arabian Sea and Eastern Mediterranean shift posture. Submarines already on station receive encrypted updates. Long-range bombers, B-2s and B-21s, have been airborne for hours, refueled mid-air, invisible to radar. Iran does not see them coming. That is the point. The kinetic strike begins at night, always at night. At exactly 2:17, the first wave hits. Tomahawk cruise missiles erupt from U.S. submarines and destroyers, flying low, hugging terrain, navigating by inertial guidance immune to GPS disruption. Targets are precise. Integrated air defense systems, radar arrays, command and control bunkers, missile storage facilities, not cities, not civilians. Within minutes, explosions ripple across western Iran. Air defense operators react too late. Some systems fire blindly. Others never come online at all. The Iranian military is suddenly fighting without coordination. As the cruise missile wave saturates defenses, the second layer arrives. Stealth aircraft. B-2 bombers penetrate deep into Iranian airspace, dropping bunker-busting munitions on hardened sites associated with missile command and nuclear infrastructure. Facilities buried under mountains, once believed untouchable, shudder as shockwaves travel through rock and concrete. The message is unmistakable. No target is safe. Iran's leadership is alerted not by radar, but by phone calls, fragmented, contradictory, incomplete. Some bases report heavy damage, others report total blackout. Communications with key regions go dead. The fog of war sets in almost immediately, and fog favors the attacker. The United States expects Iran to respond. That is not a failure scenario. It is assumed, but the timeline matters. If Iran retaliates quickly and coherently, escalation becomes likely. If Iran hesitates, even briefly, pressure mounts internally. Confusion breeds paralysis. As the strike continues, U.S. cyber operations intensify. Iranian state media websites go offline. Military communication apps fail. Social networks flood with disinformation, conflicting reports, and panic. Rumors spread faster than facts. Some claim Tehran has been hit. Others claim nuclear facilities are destroyed. Some insist this is only the beginning. The population does not know what to believe, and uncertainty is a weapon. In Tehran, senior officials are moved to hardened locations. Emergency councils convene underground. The Supreme National Security Council debates response options under extreme pressure. Every choice is dangerous. Retaliate against U.S. bases, strike Israel, close the Strait of Hormuz, activate proxy forces across the region. Each option risks pulling the entire Middle East into open war. But doing nothing risks appearing weak, domestically and internationally. Meanwhile, U.S. forces brace for retaliation. Missile defense systems activate across the Gulf. Patriots and THAAD batteries track the sky. Naval vessels prepare for swarm attacks. Air bases enter maximum alert. This is the moment planners fear most. The hours after the first strike. Oil markets react instantly. Prices spike within minutes. Shipping insurers suspend coverage. Tankers slow or reroute. Stock markets in Asia open sharply down. Even nations not involved feel the shock. Modern war does not stay regional. As dawn approaches, Iran finally responds. Not with missiles, with words. State television cuts to emergency programming. A spokesman confirms attacks on Iranian territory, vows retaliation, and accuses the United States of aggression. But the response is measured, carefully worded, deliberate. The delay is noticed in Washington, and in Jerusalem, and in Riyadh, and in Moscow, and in Beijing. Everyone is watching what Iran does next, because this is the hinge point, the moment when escalation becomes inevitable, or narrowly avoided. The first night is over. The strike has achieved its initial objective. Iran is damaged, disoriented, and under pressure. But it is not defeated. And the most dangerous phase of the crisis has just begun. The world wakes up to fragments. No single headline captures what has happened. News tickers crawl with cautious language. U.S. confirms limited strikes. Iran vows response. Oil markets volatile. But behind closed doors, governments understand the truth. The Middle East has entered its most dangerous moment in decades. In Tehran, the initial shock hardens into calculation. Iran's leadership knows something crucial. A full-scale response against the United States would be catastrophic. American air power is already inside Iranian airspace. U.S. naval forces dominate the seas. Escalation risks a war Iran cannot win conventionally. But doing nothing is impossible. The regime survives on the perception of strength. So Iran chooses the middle path, indirect war. Within hours, messages begin moving across encrypted channels, not from Tehran to Washington, but from Tehran to allies, to Hezbollah in Lebanon, to militias in Iraq, to Houthi forces in Yemen. This is not a spontaneous uprising. It is a coordinated activation. The first retaliation does not hit American soil. It hits the region. Rockets strike near U.S. installations in Iraq. Drones target shipping lanes in the Red Sea. Israeli air defenses intercept incoming fire from southern Lebanon. Each attack is limited. Each is deniable. Each sends a message. This war will not stay contained. Washington anticipated this. Within hours, U.S. Central Command expands defensive operations. Additional air assets are redeployed. Intelligence sharing with Israel and Gulf allies intensifies. But the escalation ladder is narrowing. Every intercepted missile brings relief. Every successful strike brings risk. Because miscalculation is the real enemy now. Iran's most powerful option remains unused: the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow artery through which nearly a fifth of the world's oil flows. Iran does not need to close it completely. It only needs to threaten it. Naval mines appear on satellite imagery. Fast attack boats maneuver aggressively. Insurance premiums skyrocket. Tankers hesitate. Markets react violently. Oil prices surge. Shipping costs explode. Energy-dependent economies feel the pressure within days. This is Iran's leverage, and it is enormous. As the economic shock spreads, diplomatic phones ring non-stop. European leaders push for restraint. Gulf states urge de-escalation. China calls for stability while quietly calculating energy security risks. Russia watches carefully, not as a peacemaker, but as a strategist. A distracted United States is an opportunity. Inside Iran, the narrative shifts. State media frames the strikes as proof of American aggression. Images of damaged facilities are shown selectively. Civilian suffering is emphasized. The regime rallies nationalist sentiment. Public anger grows, but not uniformly. Some fear escalation. Some demand retaliation. Some quietly question whether decades of confrontation have led here. Internal pressure mounts. And pressure creates unpredictability. The United States now faces